All right, welcome back to our channel. We are the Book Twins. I'm Carly.
And I'm Kimberly. Today we are going to be discussing, reviewing, and hashing out Discovery of Witches. So it is a trilogy by Deborah Harkness, right?
Yes, by
Hi.
Deborah Harkness.
And it is placed in London, and BBC, right?
I think so, yeah.
Has made a show. And it is a trilogy, so there are 3 books, and there are going to be, as far as we know, 3 seasons. And season 2 just premiered and finished very recently, and Carly is going to be discussing and reviewing what she thinks thus far. So, enjoy.
All right, so a little overview of the story of Discovery of Witches. So you've got demons, vampires, and witches, and they are kind of at odds with each other, and they have some of an uneasy peace that they've had for centuries now.
Yeah.
And trying to keep their secret of their existence from humans. And it's the main characters is a witch. You got Diane Bishop and a vampire, which is Matthew de Clermont. And they both come from, so the Bishops are one of the most influential families on the witches' end, and then the de Clermonts are one of the most influentials on the vampire sides. And so the story goes about how the two of them, fall in love, and they have to navigate this world of this forbidden love, because they're not supposed to, the 3 different types of creatures aren't supposed to interact, they aren't supposed to have anything to do with each other and draw too much attention to themselves. And so, it's kind of a forbidden romance. And the story is about them, overcoming that and trying to bring the 3 different creatures together.
Absolutely. Okay, Carly, so what were your first impressions of the show? You read the books a while ago, you've been a huge fan, you were excited when the show came out. What were your first impressions of the show?
So my first overall impressions, well, the first thing you've got is casting, of course. So I thought they did a really good job with who they picked for Diane Bishop.
Okay.
I really liked the actor they chose. I felt like she fit with who I pictured Diane to be, and watching that first series, I feel like she really captured the essence of who she was as a historian and as a witch coming into her powers, and I really like that.
Okay, what about versely Matthew?
Matthew, so I wasn't a big fan of who they picked for Matthew at first. My mental picture of Matthew was he's really tall, he's really broad, he's a vampire, and he's 1,500 years old, he's fought in these wars, he's been a knight. I always pictured him as this really fit, really large, almost like footballer type guy, really big, jock type of person. And the person that they cast for Matthew was a little more slender for my picture, my liking, but he's grown on me, I have to say.
Okay, so his acting overcame any kind of physical, visual defects.
Yes, absolutely. He's really, throughout the first season and the second season, he's really captured Matthew de Clermont from the books.
Awesome.
I've really liked him.
It's the power of acting. If you're a really good actor, it doesn't necessarily matter if you don't fit the physique perfectly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any other characters that stood out to you that they did well or did unwell?
So my one pet peeve is you've got the character of Marcus, and it's kind of shallow, but I wish he was blonde. He's blonde in the book, and I wish he was blonde in the series. He's not, but he's still really good.
Okay, very good. Okay, so Carly, how are they doing with the show? I know we all have different opinions of how the books portrayed in our head. Are there inconsistencies versus the book and the movie/show?
They've done actually a really good job of keeping things by the book, which has been really nice, because
Absolutely.
The books are written in a way that it was easy. It's easy to make it into a movies, but sometimes, for whatever reason they change things up, but they've done a really good job. There've been a few minor changes about when certain characters come into play or when they find out certain secrets, but they were all changes that made sense and that have worked with the story in a visual format. So for the most part, they've done a really, really good job of keeping things by the book and really cohesive and accurate to the characters that Deborah Harkness created.
Very good. Is there anything that the book did better that you like, or that the show did better that you like?
So the thing I think the book did better is there's a certain organization called the Knights of Lazarus that are a big part, a big part of the story and a big part of like the world that these creatures live in. And I feel like the book did a better job of describing the Knights of Lazarus and what they did and how enmeshed they are into the Covenant and the all of these things than the show did. Like I feel like the show could have explained that a little bit more. I mean, they talked about in the show. They talked about who the Grand Master is and that Marcus was made the Grand Master, but they really, I don't feel like have showed the significance or the power that the Knights of Lazarus have wielded over the centuries in among the creatures.
Is there still time yet for them to go into depth about this organization?
Yeah, I feel like they could still do better. I feel like they've missed some changes because you talk a lot about it I feel like in the second book. And you learn a lot about it because that's the book that Diana and Matthew go back into the past and Marcus is kind of on his own with the Knights of Lazarus. So I feel like they missed a bit of a chance there to really get into it, but they could do better in the third one because they do play
a bigger role
into the third one. So
very good.
We'll see how they do for that one.
All is not lost.
All is not lost.
All right, Carly, what about some strengths? Are there any strengths the show has given you that the book fell short?
So I really liked how the show depicted Diane's magic. So she's a weaver, so she can create her own spells, and they talk about it as like threads or like weaving a lot because she's called a weaver. And the visual that the show gave you of her like tying the different knots and stuff was really cool. That it is hard to kind of portray in a book.
Yeah. Relies a lot on one's own imagination.
Yes, it does. And so to have that visual reference with the TV show was really good.
Okay, what about any weaknesses? Anything that the show lacks?
The things that the show lacks.
This is in depth, right?
I would just say they're just some things that are just easier to portray in books. Yeah. Just like certain character developments or, so you have something called blood lore. When vampires drink the blood from any like individual, they can see the past or they can see almost like into the thoughts, into the emotions of the people that they're drinking their blood from. And it's easier to portray that in a book than I feel like it is in a TV show. And that's a really cool part of the whole vampire culture. Because it's not just humans either. Because sometimes vampires, you got this whole family dynamic. They will bite each other just as to show dominance. Okay. And it's a way of keeping like the head of the house informed. Like if all of the people under him like disobey him or challenge him, that's a way for him to, or her to, show dominance. Because they're very much a alpha wolf type society for vampires. See you next time.
Bye. Bye.